I told Sarah everything about my husband, his favorite meal, the childhood fear that still woke him up at night, the exact way to reach him when he shut down. 12 years of marriage, handed across my kitchen table like I was sharing recipes. She took every word and built a blueprint. Wednesday. Laundry day. Marcus left his gray blazer on the dining chair, and I grabbed it on my way to the washer. Checked the pockets the way I always do. Gum wrappers, gas receipt, loose change. Then something heavier. Folded paper, thicker stock than the rest. Hotel loyalty card receipt. The Monarch downtown, room 412. Check-in Friday, October 11th, 9:47 p.m. Checkout Saturday, October 12th, 11:15 a.m. That Friday, I remembered it perfectly. Marcus texted me at 10. Don't wait up. Quarter end reporting, pulling an all-nighter at the office. I almost refolded it. Almost convinced myself. Client dinner ran late. Company booked a room. Perfectly reasonable explanation. My fingers were already creasing the paper back into place. Then I saw the rewards member line. Not his name. Not the company. Sarah Whitfield. Gold member. 4,872 points. I read it once. Twice. 3 times. The paper trembled, and I realized my hands had started shaking on their own. My best friend's hotel account. My husband's overnight stay. The night he told me he was at work. The washing machine beeped. I hadn't moved. 11 minutes, standing there in the laundry room, staring at 23 words that rewrote my entire life. What kept looping through my head wasn't just the affair. Affairs happen. I'm not that naive. What gutted me was the precision of it. Every late-night conversation Sarah and I ever had about Marcus. Every confession about what he needed, what made him pull away, what brought him back. She hadn't been listening as my friend. She'd been taking notes. I told her he felt invisible at work, that he needed someone to tell him he mattered. I told her about the August fight where he said I didn't look at him the way I used to. I told her he missed feeling wanted. She used every single word like turn-by-turn directions straight into my marriage. This wasn't two people who fell into something. This was my best friend and my husband operating inside the same lie, using my own vulnerability as their playbook. I'd read once that when someone weaponizes what you confided, psychologists call it emotional treason. Standing there with that receipt, I finally understood. It felt like finding out someone picked your lock with a key you handed them yourself. So this is the part where you'd expect the explosion. The screaming phone call, his clothes on the lawn. Confronting Sarah with tears streaming down my face while she stammers about how it just happened. I did none of that. I refolded the receipt along its original creases. Pulled a manila folder from the office drawer. Wrote the date on the tab in black ink. Slid the receipt inside. Then I put his jacket back on the chair, draped exactly the way he'd left it. Marcus came home at 6. Kissed my forehead. Asked what was for dinner. I made chicken marsala, his favorite, and watched him eat across from me. Cataloged every detail. The way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. The way his phone stayed face down on the table, the entire meal. By the time I cleared the plates, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The next morning, I picked up my phone, texted Sarah 3 words. Coffee this week? Casual. Normal. The kind of text I'd sent her 1,000 times. She responded in under a minute. 1 red heart emoji. I stared at that heart until my screen went dark. Then I opened my laptop, created a new document, and typed 1 word at the top. Evidence. 6 months stretched out ahead of me. I had never been more patient in my life. Tell me where you're watching from. Because what I did next. Nobody saw it coming. They say the truth will set you free. What they don't tell you is that sometimes you need to wait for the right truth, at the right time, with the right witnesses. The morning after I created that document, I woke up before my alarm. Marcus was still asleep beside me, 1 arm draped across my pillow like nothing had changed. I counted his breaths for 11 minutes. The warmth of his body felt foreign now, like lying next to a stranger wearing my husband's skin. Then I got up, made coffee, and began the longest performance of my life. Week 1, I screenshotted every text notification that flashed across his phone while he showered. He'd stopped locking it. That's
They
how
were
safe he
building my
felt.
evidence file.
Location sharing through our family phone plan showed him at the Meridian Hotel on 3 separate Tuesday evenings. Each one matched a night he'd told me about a late project review. The credit card statements came next. $47 at an Italian place on Elm Street. $82 at a wine bar downtown. Restaurants we'd never been to together. I photographed each charge with hands that had stopped shaking weeks ago, dated each entry, filed them in a folder he would never think to look for, inside the sleeve of my grandmother's recipe binder. But the financial trail was only the skeleton. What kept me awake those first weeks with my jaw clenched so tight my dentist later asked if I'd been grinding my teeth, what made me physically sick, was watching Sarah use everything I'd ever told her. She knew Marcus grew up with a father who walked out when he was 9. I told her that on a rainy afternoon over cheap wine, 2 years into our friendship, because I trusted her with the fragile parts of my marriage. She knew he craved reassurance. She knew the specific words that unlocked him. I'm not going anywhere, because I'd confided that those 5 words could bring him back from any dark place. And she weaponized every single one. The proof was in his messages. Her texts read like a script written from my own confessions. You deserve someone who stays, Marcus. The exact language, my language, filtered through her mouth into his ear. Researchers call this emotional treason, when someone takes your vulnerability and turns it into a tool against you. I didn't know the clinical term then. I just knew it felt like she'd broken into my house and stolen something no locksmith could replace. By month 2, the pattern was undeniable. Every time I'd shared something difficult with Sarah, a fight Marcus and I had, a moment of doubt, a night where I felt invisible, the affair intensified within days. She wasn't just sleeping with my husband. She had studied him using my own intelligence as a roadmap. The precision of it was surgical. I sat across from both of them at a barbecue in April. Sarah touched his arm while telling a story. He leaned into it for half a second too long. I laughed at the right moments, refilled my wine glass, went home and added 14 new entries to the evidence file. My days split into 2 realities. In one, I was a wife and a best friend, performing normalcy with a smile that never quite reached my eyes. In the other, I was building a case so detailed that no attorney could dismiss it and no lie could survive it. Month 4 broke something open. I'd stopped at a coffee shop near the bookstore on 9th, the one with the deep leather chairs and tall shelves that create little alcoves. I was tucked behind the psychology section when I heard her voice. Sarah, 3 rows away, sitting with Danielle, a mutual acquaintance from our old yoga class. My body went still, not frozen, locked, like a predator who's just caught a scent. He literally texts me every morning before he texts her. Sarah's voice carried that specific tone, amused, proud, careless. She has no idea. None. It's almost too easy. Danielle murmured something I couldn't catch. Her tone sounded uneasy. It started when she told me they'd been fighting about having kids. Sarah continued. I just showed up for him when she couldn't. That's all it took. My hands were shaking. Not from sadness, from the effort of staying silent. I opened my phone's voice recorder. The red button glowed. I held it steady while Sarah described intimate details of my marriage like gossip at a salon, laughing about moments that had cost me sleep and tears and pieces of myself I'd never get back. Danielle said almost nothing. She didn't need to. Her presence made her a witness to every word. 9 minutes. Then I left through the side entrance without either of them seeing me. By month 6, the evidence folder had grown into something a family law attorney described in 3 words. This is airtight. Texts, receipts, location data, financial records, audio of a third-party confession. Everything admissible, everything undeniable. So I picked up my phone and made a dinner reservation for 4. Marcus looked up from the couch. Who's coming? Just us and Sarah, I said. My voice didn't waver. And one more person I think you should meet. He didn't ask who, just nodded and went back to his phone. He didn't ask. That was the last mistake he would ever make at my table. Setting the table. I had spent 6 months building something Marcus and Sarah would never see coming. The only thing left was to sit down, unfold my napkin, and let the evidence do what screaming never could. 7 days before the dinner, I called the restaurant myself. Not the hostess line, the manager directly. I needed a corner booth with a clear sightline to the entrance, I told him. He asked if it was an anniversary. Yes, I said. In a way, it was. The booth seated 5. I only needed 4. Lisa picked up on the second ring. The mutual acquaintance who'd been standing in that coffee shop 3 months earlier, who'd heard Sarah laughing about my marriage like it was a punchline. I hadn't spoken to her since that day. She'd sent 2 texts afterward, both unanswered. The first, "I'm so sorry." The second, "If you ever need anything." I needed something now. There's a dinner next Friday. I need you there before anyone else arrives. My voice was steady. You won't have to say a word. Just be present. Silence stretched between us. Then, quietly, "You're doing it. I'm finishing it." She didn't hesitate. "Tell me when and where." What Lisa understood, what my attorney had explained to both of us separately, was that her presence served a specific legal function. A witness who could testify that service of divorce papers occurred, that both parties were present, that the documents were physically handed over in a setting where denial would be impossible. Family courts recognize this. Opposing counsel can't argue. Papers were never received when a third party watched them slide across the table. By Wednesday, the envelope was ready. My attorney's paralegal handed it to me in the lobby of her office building. The weight surprised me, not heavy, exactly, but dense. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Division of assets. A detailed exhibit list cross-referencing every screenshot, every credit card statement, every hotel loyalty receipt, every GPS timestamp I'd cataloged across 6 months. 23 pages of evidence so thorough that my attorney had used a word I'll never forget. Surgical. That same Wednesday evening, Marcus kissed me on the forehead before bed. His lips were warm. His hand lingered on my shoulder. I felt absolutely nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just the flat, smooth surface of a decision already made. Sarah texted me Thursday morning. "So excited for dinner tomorrow. Should I bring wine?" I typed back, "Already handled. Just bring yourself." 3 exclamation points from her. A champagne glass emoji. The woman who'd used every secret I ever told her was sending me champagne emojis. My husband's childhood fear of abandonment. His need to feel chosen. The exact words that made him feel safe. Research calls what she did emotional treason, taking someone's confided vulnerabilities and weaponizing them as a roadmap into their partner's heart. I called it something simpler. Unforgivable. Thursday night, I stood in front of my closet for 40 minutes. 3 outfits came off hangers and went back. Too bright. Too casual. Too much like someone trying to make a statement. What I chose instead was the opposite. Black pants, white blouse, no jewelry. Except my wedding ring. Still on my left hand, where it had been for 9 years. I would wear it one final time. Then I would remove it in front of the 2 people who made it meaningless. Friday, 6:47 p.m. The restaurant smelled like rosemary and warm bread. Lisa was already in the booth when I arrived, exactly as planned, tucked into the far corner with a glass of water she hadn't touched. Our eyes met. She gave me one small nod. I sat across from her, adjusted the silverware, and ordered a bottle of Sancerre. The same wine Sarah always complimented at my dinner parties. The ones where she'd sit next to my husband and refill his glass before I could. The envelope sat in my handbag beneath the table. 23 pages. 6 months. One moment. At 7:04, I heard them before I saw them. Laughter. Sarah's unmistakable high laugh, cutting through the restaurant noise, and underneath it, Marcus's low chuckle. The one he used when he was relaxed. When he thought no one was paying attention. They came through the entrance together. Not touching, but close. The kind of close that looks casual to strangers and obvious to a wife who's been watching for half a year. Sarah spotted me first, waved with her whole hand, that wide smile I used to trust with my life spreading across her face. Marcus followed a step behind, phone in his pocket, jacket slung over one arm. They slid into the booth. Sarah kissed my cheek. Marcus squeezed my hand. Neither of them looked at Lisa. Not yet. Then Sarah's eyes drifted to the corner. Her smile flickered, just a fraction, just for a half second. She turned back to me with a question forming on her lips. Before she could ask it, the waiter appeared with the wine, and I reached into my bag. There's a specific kind of silence that happens when someone realizes they've been caught. Not surprise. The silence of a trap closing. I pulled the manila folder from my bag and set it on the white tablecloth, between the bread basket and the water glasses. Ordinary placement. Like a menu someone forgot to move. I found something 6 months ago. Marcus reached for his wine. Sarah tilted her head, still smiling, still performing the role of best friend she'd been playing for 12 years. A hotel receipt, with your loyalty rewards number on it, Sarah. The Marriott downtown. A Saturday in March, the same Saturday Marcus told me he was pulling a double shift. Her smile didn't fade. It collapsed. One muscle at a time, like a building losing its supports floor by floor. I opened the folder. Spread the contents across the table, the way a dealer fans cards. Receipts first. 14 hotel stays spanning 11 months, each one time-stamped against Marcus's calendar lies. Then the screenshots, text threads where they coordinated arrivals, joked about close calls, used code names that made my stomach fold in on itself. Credit card statements with charges highlighted in yellow. Restaurants I'd never been to. Neighborhoods I had no reason to visit. Marcus set his glass down without drinking. His face lost something, not just color, but dimension. Like someone had pressed him flat. The location data from our shared phone plan confirmed everything. Your devices pinged the same towers, at the same hotels on the same nights. 17 times. Sarah's mouth opened, closed, opened again. One word. It was enough. I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapped play on the audio file, and set it face up on the table. Her own voice filled the booth, bright, laughing, bragging to a mutual acquaintance about how easy it all was. How the wife had no idea. How she knew exactly what Marcus needed because his wife had told her everything. The sound of my best friend laughing about the secrets I'd handed her like gifts. Lisa watched from the corner booth, steady, present, exactly where a witness needed to be. I slid the divorce papers across the table. The envelope was crisp, unsealed, his name typed across the front. You'll be served officially Monday morning. But I wanted you to hold these tonight, with witnesses. Marcus finally spoke. Can we just? I reached for my left hand. The ring came off easier than I expected. 12 years of marriage, and it slipped free like it had been waiting. I placed it on top of the papers. A period at the end of a sentence I'd spent 6 months writing. Then I stood. No parting speech. No tears. Nothing left to prove. Lisa rose from her booth and followed me toward the door. Behind us, the restaurant hummed with other people's conversations, other people's ordinary Friday nights. At our table, 2 people sat in the kind of silence that has no exit. The divorce finalized 5 months later. My evidence made contesting it pointless. Financial records, location data, screenshots, and audio testimony created what my attorney called an incontestable case. Sarah's name appeared in court documents that became public record. Mutual friends didn't learn the truth from gossip. They learned it from filings. Sarah tried reframing herself as the victim. The evidence made that impossible. 6 months after the decree, I walked into a coffee shop on a Wednesday morning. Marcus was sitting alone by the window. He looked diminished somehow, not broken, just reduced, like a photograph printed at half resolution. He saw me. His lips parted. I walked past him the way you pass a stranger whose face you almost recognize but can't quite place. Because that's what he was now. I don't tell people everything anymore. However, and this is what those 6 months taught me, I remember everything I'm told. There is a difference between reacting to betrayal and responding to it. Reacting is immediate, emotional, satisfying for about 11 seconds. Responding takes patience. Documentation. Sitting across from the 2 people who gutted your life and pouring them wine while your folder waits inside your bag. I don't regret the silence. I regret the 12 years of trust that made it necessary. If you've ever sat across from someone and known something they didn't realize you knew, you understand exactly what that silence costs. Subscribe. Next week's story is one I almost didn't tell.